February 28th, 2026, a night that will be remembered in letters of fire. The sky over Tehran was ripped apart by a second artificial sun. Terror gripped the city as the first missiles breached the midnight silence. Anti-aircraft tracers painted a chaotic red lattice across the darkened horizon.
Let me be clear.
From Washington,
These actions
President
are
Trump
unacceptable.
declared a
There will
massive
be
shift
serious
in global
consequences.
military power.
Heat signatures are spiking
Inside
over
the
Tehran.
Pentagon, the
Show me the
tactical
full
maps
projection.
of the Middle
Confirmed
East
it's
began to
expanding rapidly.
pulse. A squadron of F-35s banked sharply, their engines screaming through the clouds. The nuclear facility at Isfahan erupted in a pillar of smoke and debris. Revolutionary Guard units scrambled, their boots echoing through the urban war zone.
Clear the way!
Hospitals
Incoming!
became the front
Pulse is
lines
dropping.
as
Get the crash
sirens
cart.
wailed
On it!
through the
Move,
darkened
move!
streets. In the Persian Gulf, a U.S. carrier launched a volley of tomahawks. Beneath the waves, silent submarines unleashed their payload toward the Iranian coast. The oil refineries of Abadan turned into towering torches of thick black smoke. Radar screens flickered with dozens of incoming signatures in a digital storm. In the subways of Tehran, a million souls waited in heavy, suffocating shock. Satellites watched from orbit as the landscape of Iran was reshaped by fire. Israeli command centers hummed with the cold precision of a long-planned strike. The Azadi Tower stood as a silent witness to the collapse of an era. Iranian missile convoys raced through desert canyons, searching for a clear clearing. Every shattered window in the city told a story of a lost peace. Deep underground, the steel doors of the great silos began to slide open. The ground shook as the first retaliatory missiles ignited their massive engines. Dozens of streaks climbed into the atmosphere, heading toward the western horizon. Naval guns roared in defense, filling the sea air with the smell of cordite. A fireball lit the dark ocean as the first interceptors met their targets. In Qatar, thousands of travelers realized the world had changed forever overnight. Stock markets plummeted as the price of oil surged into uncharted territory. Even the Burj Khalifa seemed small against the backdrop of patrolling war jets. At the UN, the voices of diplomacy were drowned out by war drums. Barracks in Bahrain felt the shockwaves as the conflict expanded its reach. The Strait of Hormuz, the world's vital jugular vein, was suddenly choked shut. Every television
We have
screen
breaking
on
news
Earth
and attack
flashed
in
the
Europe.
same
Live from
terrifying
London, the crisis
words,
is escalating.
breaking
Brexit
news.
is worsening by the minute.
A single finger hovered over a red button, holding the fate of millions. Cyber attacks surged, flickering the lights of cities thousands of miles away. Tehran went dark, a city of 10 million plunged into a prehistoric night. By candlelight, families huddled in basements, listening to the world burn outside. Paratroopers prepared for the drop, their faces masks of grim and cold determination. The pilot's heavy breath was the only sound in a cockpit focused on death. Downed drones floated like dead birds in the black waters of the Gulf. Protests erupted in London, a sea of people begging for a lost peace.
Get the
Grocery
water, quick!
shelves in
On
New
it.
York
Grab your
emptied
cans.
as the primal
More,
fear
before
of
it's gone.
scarcity
Got it, let's go.
began. Russian bombers roared off snowy runways, adding their heavy weight to the crisis. In Beijing, the silence of the leadership was more terrifying than any speech. The global map turned red, a digital infection of violence spreading very fast.
We have breaking
Iran
news.
announced
Iran has just
full-scale
announced
retaliation,
against
promising
Israel.
a war that would span across oceans. On the Pak-Afghan border, the mist grew thick with the scent of gunpowder. Pickup trucks filled with armed fighters moved through the jagged mountain passes. A Pakistani JF-17 broke the sound barrier, a warning to all who watched. At Chaman, the line of stalled trucks stretched as far as the eye. The gates of GHQ were barred as the nation's defense went on alert. In
Tensions
Lahore,
escalate as
crowds
forces advance
gathered
on
in
key border
silence,
positions.
their
UN calls
eyes
for restraint
fixed on
amid
the
rising
news
global
screens. Headlines screamed of a border emergency, a threat from both east and west. Smoke rose from the hills of Host, the result of a precise raid. Drones hovered silently, their thermal eyes searching for movement in the dark night. Soldiers in the trenches adjusted their gear, eyes fixed on the Durand line. An empty classroom stood as a silent prayer for a future stolen away. Through green night vision lenses, the reality of a night raid was slowly revealed. Artillery fire lit the ridges of Waziristan, a thunder that never seemed to end. Helicopters kicked up the dust of a land that has known much sorrow. The Corps commander sat in a room where every decision cost many lives. Candlelight flickered outside prison walls, a symbol of the nation's inner struggle.
Our fight continues
Tear
until his
gas
release.
and tension filled the city streets as internal pressure boiled over. A mother's embrace was the only shield against the roar of jets above. On encrypted screens, the coordinates of the next strike began to appear rapidly. An old man turned the dial of his radio, searching for a truth. The Indus River flowed on, indifferent to the military bridges being built across it. Screen after screen turned red with the warning of a total system failure. Flags across the world were lowered, a collective mourning for a lost peace. Speeding trains passed by walls covered with the desperate slogans of the youth. A periscope broke the surface, a mechanical eye watching a burning shore tonight. A child's reflection in a window was framed by the orange fire glow. The call to prayer echoed through an empty courtyard, a plea for mercy. A news anchor took off his headset, unable to read
a major
the
incident
next
has occurred in the
update.
downtown area.
The sold
Initial
out sign
reports are of
at the
multiple
gas station
casualties.
was the first omen. An empty street, a blowing newspaper, and the silence of a city hiding. Outside the capital, the clash of ideologies turned into clash of steel. A massive blast behind the dome of the rock signaled the end. Small boats swarmed the giants of the sea, a David and Goliath battle. A heavy boot crushed a peace symbol into the mud, a final statement. The digital clock hit 0, and for a moment, the world held breath. From space, the desert looked like it was moving as tanks rolled forward. In fields of sunflowers, the machinery of death waited for its next command. A glowing globe showed the paths of missiles like veins of fire everywhere. The metallic thud of a bunker door closing was the sound of finality. By the light of a torch, a soldier wrote words for his home. A drone's eye view showed a city split between darkness and the flames. President Trump's eyes stared from the screen, a gaze that admitted no doubt. The world map turned a deep, bruised red, the color of a planet. A stuffed toy lay alone in the dust, the witness to our failure. The screen faded to black, leaving one message: the world is waiting now.